Welcome to the first video of this channel. I want to sort of make this a semi-inconsistent thing, hobby, I don't know, just something to help with boredom and whatever as I navigate grad school and stuff like that. So basically what I'm going to do, I'm sorry if I'm like I'm just listening to my voice right now and it's very jarring, but I want to get used to it. So the only way out is through, as they say. Alright, so I'm doing this because this is my most recent rewatch of Breaking Bad, and I did a mostly complete rewatch of Better Call Saul about like a year and a half ago. About a year, I think. So I remember I only got up to like season 6 because, I don't know, I just got lazy and just stopped watching. So I plan to sort of rank these characters kind of based on relatability, but most importantly the quality of the writing within each of them, which honestly that's a pretty consistent parameter because almost all of the characters are written well. If not, then they're just flanderizations I only use for like an episode or two, but it doesn't really negatively impact. The characters serve their purpose. That's why I've chosen a tier list of, I don't want to have a bunch of minor characters in here. So these are pretty recurring characters throughout the series through Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. I will state that I do have a bit more of affinity for Better Call Saul than Breaking Bad. I just prefer a little bit more. But that shouldn't really too much impact my ranking. So first, as you can see, I also have the Breaking Bad wiki here to actually help me with the characters, because sometimes I just forget, honestly. It's just so hard to keep track of everything, and there's so many characters throughout the combined 11 seasons of this and a movie, which I just watched for the first time last night. So I'll just go in order of however this brings me. So Tuco's again, she just kind of exists. D tier is not because I hate her or anything, it's just because you barely see her. She doesn't really have a presence, almost like she has like an instrumentality to Tuco and stuff like that. Let me actually look up two. So yeah, I just confirmed this is Tuco's Abuelita because I was so concerned I actually got that wrong and that this isn't that character at all, and I want to be accurate. So that's good. Next, Andrea. Good character. There's not necessarily any complexity with her. She's a good character, written well, but there's not a lot with her character, and other than like kind of her utility in the script, which is a little bit problematic, but then again, she kind of serves her purpose in there, and it's not like she's like an awful character. Okay, so I'm gonna need to add another row for just characters I don't remember. Smiley face. Alright, so I don't remember you. I'm really sorry. I can't just look up each and every one of these characters. Hadger again is in that C tier. I mean, he's fun. I don't really have too much stake in him one way or another. He's just kind of a nothing character. He's just kind of a... he doesn't have too much with him. He's just kind of a foil for Jimmy, in that he's kind of a representation of what kind of lawyer Jimmy wants to be, especially in the beginning. And, you know, it's kind of that sort of situation. He doesn't have too much going on insofar as his actual, like, philosophy, whatever. Eyebrows. I like this dude. He's good. He's meant to be unlikable. He's pretty unlikable. I like him. You know, there's not too much I can say. Yeah. Okay, so Balsa. I've honestly forgotten a lot about this character. I don't know too much. I kind of don't remember. So to be fair and not rank him incorrectly, I would put him don't remember. The kid. I guess the expectation is honestly, I don't remember most of these people's names. Brock. That's what this kid's name is, Brock. He's okay. At the same time, just kind of middling. Again, this isn't really how they're written or personality, but they kind of don't have any. They're kind of just standard throughout the whole show. The vet, same. Principal, same. I forget this character. I forgot her. This dude. D. Chuck. Okay, finally we're getting into the meat of this. So yeah, Chuck is going in A because he's just a great character. There's lots of things with his illness and whatever, and how that's just like manifestation of like his fear of like Jimmy and loss of control and things like that. I really appreciate this character. I compare him more readily to Walter White as far as this woe is me manipulative sort of person. But overall, I do like this character. Maybe not necessarily the actions or like the personality, but I do like this character. I forgot your name. I forgot your name, but I know who you are. Sort of situation. Good character overall. And I don't know, he's just a cool dude. He's written pretty well. Stuff like that. I forget. Combo. C for Combo. He's just one of those characters that just haunts the narrative for Breaking Bad and El Camino. And, I mean, I appreciate that. You know, he doesn't have, like, no use as a character, but there's only so far that takes a character without too many flashbacks or recallings of him. But, yeah, it's pretty good. Enough said. This guy, another kind of one note. Crazy 8, if I'm not mistaken. Again, D. He's only real character who's to be a moral sort of conundrum for Walt. He doesn't really have much beyond that than to be like the first kill. And Don Eladio, he's enjoyable enough. Yeah, he sits comfy in the seat. C for comfy. Learning our alphabet today. Jane's dad, he's in B. He's in B. He's a bit more fleshed out. Honestly, I relate to him a bit more. And since this is a subjective list, he's going to stay there. The doctor at Gus Fring's hideout. Again, one note. I actually didn't really expect to put these many characters in D so far, but we haven't really hit the meat of these characters, whatever. Again, just exists to die, pretty much, and provide that sort of more moral thing with Jesse and Todd, and Walt and Mike. Not too much in the way. I want to call this dude Al. I think in my own headcanon, his name is Al. If that's actually his name, please let me know. But, yeah, the vacuum repair dude, yeah, I like him. He's pretty cool. Love the actor. Name is not at all reaching me right now, but yeah, I really enjoy this character. She's also pretty enjoyable as kind of this uptight lawyer sort of archetype, and I think she's good because of her relation with Saul, as he later becomes. Yeah, kind of just overall decent. I like watching him, even though it's just kind of a Diet Coke version of God, her name, the fucking tea lady. Maybe I'll remember her name, but she's a Diet Coke version of her. This dude also pretty chill. I enjoy watching him. Good performances. Yeah. Camera crew, very fun, very, very fun. I love all of their performances, really. I don't know, Better Call Saul has more personalities than Breaking Bad. Breaking Bad is plot oriented, while Better Call Saul is a lot more character oriented, if that makes any sense. I'm not saying one doesn't have the other, but it's like one takes primacy versus the other. That's an apples and oranges comparison, not necessarily on the quality of the show, but just on how the shows are. I just like the variety of different people, and Better Call Saul a lot more. Desk Lady B. I know I'm just making nicknames for these characters, but honestly it's going to take so long for me to just look up each and every one of these characters. I mean, we still have a ways to go, really. And for the major characters, I want to say a bit more about them. I'm just going to nickname them. I know who they are. She's in B only because of Better Call Saul. Because of what it does with her character. She becomes... Better Call Saul is really good because a lot of characters that would otherwise be in like F or D are actually now deeply underized, and they're propped up a bit more. So that goes for her. That's kind of it so far within this series. Gretchen and her husband. Hi D. I like Gretchen Elliott. That's his name. They're there to also be loyal to Walt and not necessarily characters themselves, just as another point of relation. So that's a little bit weird, but I find that, interesting how Walt just doesn't take help, and his masculine urges and shit like that are just, it's like, no, I must do this on my own, that sort of thing. I forget you. Yeah, Bodashare, I think, also be enjoyable. He seems like a fleshed out character, kind of. He's only in B because he's a libertarian. I should really remember his name, but my memory is horrible. Gomez. Yeah. He's good. No, he's high B. He's not that good. He's good, and it's very consistent, but there's no real change with the character. There's no real anything. Again, very consistent, very useful, but at the same time, just not very compelling. Gonzo, if I remember. D, one note. Do I have to say my justifications for this? Alright, so by the end of Breaking Bad, you have one of the most compelling villains on TV. And then Better Call Saul, they already proved themselves with this character, yet they add even more substance, more nuance, more clarity with his character, and more reasons for why he does the things that he does. I just he was done dirty by Walt. I'm not saying he was a good person and someone to strive to be, but when you're in this sort of drug business, and definitely he's more favorable than Walt, and I actually really, really appreciate how this is one of the best depictions of a gay villain without too much how do I want to say this, without too much relying on the identity. A lot of Disney's movies portray their villains as androgynous or in drag or something like that. Look at Little Mermaid or even Scar. There's lots of flamboyancy with that, and I think that's great on its own. There's definitely an art to that in expressing sexuality that way. But to have someone who's just evil as fuck, but he just happens to also be gay, it's not a defining trait for him, really, other than his relationship with Max and how that works out. Like, it motivates him, but doesn't, in a way it does define his motivations, but his character is very much more pragmatic, and I feel like has more depth than a typical Disney androgynous villain would have otherwise. Hank, ASAP Schrader. Yeah, he's a great character. Unfortunately, I think he's a Republican, so that has to dock a few points, but overall, he's one of the best depictions of a panic attack, an anxiety attack, that I've seen. And it's just really cool to see this sort of character portrayed in a way, in the same way that that Gus is. He also is a foil to Walt's masculinity, in that here Gus is, emasculates Walt in taking control from him, which for Walt it's a very, nuclear family oriented sort of thing. Whereas Hank emasculates Walt in a different way. He emasculates him in seeking this justice in the same way Walt seeks, injustice by poisoning a kid, stuff like that. And very well rounded actor. Yeah. Yeah, very good. Very good villain in Better Call Saul. It elevates him more, in my opinion. And Breaking Bad is just, it's good. Memorable performance. He only gets away with A by the skin of his teeth because of Better Call Saul. Yeah. Holly. She's a kid. She's a baby. She's ostensibly a prop for the main characters, which is a common thing done in movies, TV, literature, whatever. Of like the kid is just kind of a prop to care about, and I don't hate her. I don't know how you could just hate a baby for like no reason, but she doesn't really have much to her, really. Hamlin. I mean, probably more like this. Hamlin is a lot more of a... He's so relatable. He kind of plays as the straight man to Kim and Jimmy in the later seasons because of how just like he's fed up with what they're doing with him, and they really do fucked up shit to him. And that's he's just a victim of getting in between Jimmy and his brother. Really, he's not really. It's no fault of his own. He always saw potential in Jimmy, but Chuck never let him sign on because Chuck just doesn't like his brother and sees his misdeeds as his nature rather than his nurture. Rather than behavior that can be corrected, he sees it as unalterable qualities. He's fun. Yeah, he's fun. Yeah, he's just a fun character in more ways than C. Where I just think he's just cool. Yeah. I want to call this dude Hugo. I forget his name. He's like one of the first innocent victims Walt takes, and that he gets him away from his job, stuff like that. Very, very nice man. But then again, that is just his character, and he's only in a couple episodes in season 1. Not too much of a lasting impact. Ostracized old lady, number 52? I just feel so... She's really just a subject of schadenfreude for the audience because of how dirty she's done by Jimmy. And, the only redeeming quality is that Jimmy owns up to it by the end. I don't fuck with Nazis, and I don't really find his character otherwise too compelling. Yeah. Mr. School Bus and Nazi are in the same category. I forget who this kid is. I don't remember. Jane. She's in upper B. She's probably one of the more compelling of Jesse's love interests, but there really isn't much for her. Especially since she dies so early. Spoilers, by the way. And she's just, I don't know, she's just a decent character. That's all we have to really say. Her scene of overdosing is really heartbreaking, and yeah. I forget who this is. I don't remember. Now Jesse. This might be Breaking Bad's best character. I think he's the most well-rounded character. Definitely the most, relatable in that he's sort of gone with the wind. He's sort of doesn't have much agency in all of this, and he does lots of actions that he'd rather not do, but because of his standing, he has no other choice. And I just really enjoy this character. Very likable, very well written, the best written character, honestly. And I just watched El Camino last night, and honestly, it was disappointing, to say the least. There were parts of it that felt like a fan fiction. There were parts of it that just felt really unnecessary. And I think if they were even going to do this in the first place, I think they should have done a miniseries, like a 5-episode thing. Because obviously it wanted to cover so many things in the 2 hours, and the pacing kind of struggles because of that, and there's no real momentum. And I think Vince Gilligan really knows how to do TV. Film, not so much, at least in this instance. I don't know if he's made another movie or whatever, but yeah, really just very good character. El Camino was disappointing. I felt like it didn't really add anything substantial to his lore. It added questions film 101 students would have, well, how does he leave? How doesn't he get caught? What's his future like? Where does he move? And kind of the MCU, where they have to over-explain every little thing, or how other prequels over-explain a character's origins, like Nick Fury and the eye patch. It's they had to explain everything, and nothing's left to imagination. Again, I'm still happy to see my goat live on and thrive, but not to, movie wasn't too good, but the character overall is great. Jesse's parents, again, one note. They're kind of one note. Yeah, they're kind of, yeah, there's not much to really say about them. A bit uptight with Jake. Is this Jake? I forget. I honestly forget. But, yeah, I mean, it gives insight into Jesse's background, but other than that, it doesn't really do much. Jimmy McGill. Again, I think he's only second, because he's, without Jesse Pinkman, he'll be first. There's no real competition otherwise, but still, like, I don't know, it's just a very enjoyable character, very well rounded. It took him from Ned Flanders and Breaking Bad to like a fully developed like self-consciousness and his belief of, oh well, I can't get better, I can't leave these things behind. It reinforces his behavior. It's a self-fulfilling sort of thing, and he's really a tragic character, but he's just a very well written character, very relatable. As a protagonist for the show, like the main character of the show, more convincing than Walter White. But that's probably just down to preference and stuff like that. Flynn, he goes on B. People love to hate on him because he's like a dumb kid, but I feel like he's written pretty realistically as like a high school teenager, where he glorifies some violence, and maybe if he knew what his dad was doing, then maybe he would somewhat accept it, or maybe the reality would be too much and it's only fun in fiction. Yeah, he gets lots of crap, and because of how he's manipulated, he's made to think wrongly of his mother and dad, and have this false view of how shit's actually going on. But I don't know. As far as a kid goes, he's written not too annoyingly. Yeah. Kaylee, there's not much to her other than Mike that really, she's kind of it's kind of difficult because some of these characters are just accessories of another, which is a bit unfortunate to phrase them that way, but this isn't me just saying, oh, she's just an accessory versus her utility as a character in the script. It's a bit of a difference, but I don't know. She really just pairs with Mike, not too much with her. Yeah. Nerds, Nazis, and businessmen are all in the same category for me. I will not take any further comments. Also a Nazi. Have a Nazi sandwich there. White America, am I right? Speaking of white America, you have the wiener dogs. No, the carrot and the stick. Or whatever. They're fine. They're fun to see. Not much to them. I honestly don't have much to say about them, really. Yeah. The Southern accent guy from Texas gonna help me expand Mesa Verde. He's fun. I like him. It's good to have a Southern dude just kind of vibing. He's just kind of fun. Kim Wexler is very close. She's very close to S. We only kind of get a backstory to her towards the end, but I do really like her as a character. Fuck it, this is my list. She goes in S. Very good character that is not an accessory to Jimmy, but is a complementary to his character, and almost in bad ways, where she ends up enabling him and he enables her to do all this bad shit. Overall, I think it's probably fine. And enjoy your character, and that's kind of the crux of it. I don't have too much to say about her. Lalo, very charismatic performance by the actor. Also, just a very overall compelling villain. Sort of like is sort of like example of how he is a representation of the cartel and things like that. And he's really fun as a villain. Not entirely fleshed out, but honestly, he served his purpose well. Again, I forget his name. Her name. Sorry. I'm like some facial blindness. People like to crap on her, but I think she's fun. She's a fun character. It's like kind of a juxtaposition of this busybody businesswoman compared to the drug trade, and that she can't actually get her hands wet with blood, but she can, wet a paper with ink to trade millions of dollars, benefiting from that very same trade. I just like it how there's different types of that sort of evil, and she's a compelling character. I like her a lot. Here's another character that just exists to die. Good character. What can I say? Nacho's dad. Good flail to Nacho. Good character overall. This is like if everyone around Jimmy had the same energy as this dude. For Nacho, Jimmy would be better off. Because it wasn't too late for Jimmy, was it? For Nacho, he was trying to get out at every chance. Maybe there were a few opportunities to do so. But, I'm going to rate Nacho as well. Again, very compelling. Nacho is like the bad ending to Jesse Pinkman's story. Good people underneath just need a way out, and it really shows how lucky Jesse is. But that doesn't take away of Nacho as just he's just an example of what could have been. But overall, he is real good. He's played very, very well by Voss from Far Cry 3. I think that's very cool. Marco Polo. He's fun enough. Yeah. Not much to say. Ooh, we're going to get into controversial. Marie. Jesus Christ. She also gets a bad rap, mainly because a lot of people actually identify with Walt's sense of control of family and that sort of toxic masculinity. And I think in a few ways Marie is has some badly written parts to her, but that doesn't necessarily constitute the whole of her character. kind of just appreciate her character a lot. Is also another voice of reason who, sometimes she's neurotic or has sort of habits that you can't break, but we all have those. We all have our vices, and it's just kind of that sticking with that theme of Breaking Bad and the overall message of different shades of darkness and justice and injustice, stuff like that. I forget her name, but I remember is that this actress played the kangaroo in Horton Hears a Who. I can't really remember. I really can't her name, but Call Saul, nice enough. She's in D. She doesn't really do too much. Can't really rate at the end of the day just by the quality of their niceness. I need to actually factor into each character's how well they're written and stuff like that. Again, this guy's kind of in the same boat. He's like that blue detective, whatever sort of character. Really not much to him. Yeah. Honestly, I don't. Yeah. Mike. So here's what you're going to do. You're going to put me in S tier and then explain why you like me so much. Okay, so Mike is a good character. Also very well rounded. He's kind of like if Jesse stayed until retirement age doing what he's doing. And also another very tragic character. I'm not actually sure if Kaylee Ehrmantraut ever got her money at the end of the show. I can't remember that. Either way, he just kind of disappears and dies. And it's not really, it's pretty ambiguous. I don't remember you. The welding dude, unlikable, not very well written. D. The fucking junkyard dude, he's cool. Yeah, not much to say. Oh yeah, she's with the Western dude. They're gonna be together. Yeah. Bill Burr. I like his performance enough. Doesn't have too much of a character, but I feel like Bill Burr himself kind of bleeds onto the page of the script. He kind of puts in his own sort of thing. Chuck's ex. There's really not much to her. It's really not. She comes to understand that Jimmy's an awful person and what she does to Chuck, but at that point there's nothing Chuck or anyone else can do, really. Forget your name, but you're fun enough. Again, he's kind of in the same range as this guy, but it's, I don't know, they're just in the same range of kind of straight men to everything that's happening. This guy has a bit more personality, so he kind of edges out this guy, to what you wanna. They shot combo F. Skinny Pete. This is where the fan fiction aspect from El Camino came from, giving Jesse his hat. It's just kind of like, Jesse's like, why are you doing this? And like, having my car stay over. And he's like, you're my hero, bro. Like, fuck out. Get the fuck out. Again, I do think El Camino kind of humanizes him a bit more. But, yeah. Ambivalent. Yeah. Skylar White. A. Solidly an A. I do not understand why people have such a hatred to this woman. I get that she's a foil for Walt, and I get there are some unlikable things people don't like about her, but that's kind of intentional. We need to keep in mind that she's a victim of abuse. This isn't like she's not just cheating on Walt because she feels like it. She's trying to regain control that she lost from his manipulation. Whenever she does things and keeps it from Walt, it's because Walt also does the same behavior. Walt actually enabled that behavior in the first place. So I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear about Skylar. She has some of the best. One of the best depictions of depression I think I've seen. Like, first half of season 5. The whole pool scene, and it's just this self-destructiveness where she ends up giving in to Walt because she has no control, really. She has just Miles' control as much as Jesse. But when it gets down to it, as far as their position in season 5, she's tried different outlets, divorce, stuff like that. She doesn't want the cross to bear that her husband was a drug dealer, and to prove that before court. Same with Hank, but Hank actually does something about it. Skylar is kind of helpless, and I can't. It's an immediate red flag for me if someone doesn't like Skylar. Immediate red flag. Because, okay, you can dislike her all you want, but you must, in order to dislike her, you must absolutely hate Walter. That's the only condition where I'll accept it. Because obviously this is an abusive relationship, manipulative sort of thing, and we can't just. And I don't even necessarily blame the writers. Maybe to some extent, but as far as the fans go, they really do identify with Walt throughout the show of making your own way and getting your money for your family, and intention is all that matters and stuff like that. But they miss out on the bigger picture of Walt is a monster. He had manipulative tendencies and tactics as early season 1. He's always had that. He becomes a monster in season 5, but it's not like, you can see the signs from the beginning. Just as you could see the signs of Jimmy McGill being a good person from the beginning. Maybe not during Breaking Bad, but in Better Call Saul you definitely do. Trevor? Ambivalent. He's fun. He's Trevor. So. Kaylee's mom. Mike's daughter-in-law. Enjoyable. I don't fucking like Ted. He's kind of on the same coin, different side for Walt, because it's the same sort of pride and ego of protecting your family, but in the white collar crime sort of thing, tax evasion, whatever. I'm not going to get into an argument about paying your taxes is unethical, but they're both different things of breaking the law within American society. And he's just kind of this jerk off who is just like, oh, well, he's the definition of weaponized incompetence. Is the definition of just, well, of course I didn't know. I need to buy a car with a $600,000 because blah blah blah, and all these things. I really don't like him. Yeah, not much else to say. APD, protective detective. He's just a cop. Just a cop. Only a little bit higher than nerds, Nazis, and businessmen. Oh my god. This is gonna be tricky. Though, I dislike this character so much. He's also a resemblance of this white privilege and weaponized incompetence. And it's just, he's so unlikable that it kind of reverts to, oh my god, Jesse Plemons put his whole pussy into this. Seriously, like, he's so good at playing this character. But unfortunately, in no fault with Jesse Plemons, because he's an amazing actor. But I just see Todd in different roles that he's in. I think of how unlikable he is. Very good portrayal, very bad character. Very well written character, however. If that makes sense. Performance carries, honestly. If it was anyone else, it would be C. But because Jesse Plemons is just that good at it, he elevates it to A. The kid, he's a kid. Kind of gets combo dead, but it's no fault of his own. Kind of in the same tier as this kid. Not much to say. Machete B, because he's Machete. He only has 2 appearances, but apparently that's only because he could only afford him for so long. So, yeah. Zuko, he's B. He's fun. Fun, good psychopath, whatever. The twins, C. They're just not too compelling for me. Again, good performances, iconic. There's not much to them. Again, D. Really not much to these two. This guy has a little bit more personality, but gotta make sure they're not ahead of the police. But I don't know. There's just not much to them, to be honest. Walter White. Kind of on the edge of S. I can't make a mess. It's the same sort of conundrum I'm having as with Todd, but on a bigger magnitude, where I enjoy the technicality in the performance more than the character itself. For Bryan Cranston to come out here and commit fully to this character and everything, very good. Generational performance. Pretty much most everybody from B up has a fantastic performance. But I really can't rank him much higher than that because he's just such an unlikable character, and the mainstream appeal of him of, oh, he does anything for family, like this badass hero, the anti-hero, and no, he's just straight up villain. In a lot of ways, Jesse is the real protagonist of all this. He's just the overall arcing villain. There's a reason why all the villains die early on or succumb to his doing, is because he's the real villain, and Walter's just super lucky. Super lucky. Wendy, she's fun. His death was so sad, and likable character, very well rounded, not too generic or anything. So yeah, this is pretty much my complete list. Again, a lot of these characters I don't remember at all. F are Nazis and cops, which we've established in businessmen. D is just kind of characters are kind of there sporadically, don't leave too much of an impact, or are children or a baby. C are like the fun characters, I think, and provide some sort of levity and or grounding to the stories and other characters. B looks to be better versions of C, like, again, good characters to bounce off of, good supportive cast. Kind of get here into the main characters, and there's very, very well-rounded characters, and then up here I have like very like top-notch, the elite characters. So yeah, let me know what you think. Who would you rank where? And yeah, that's in my first video. I'll kind of keep this semi-weekly, and I'll try editing this video for practice. This is a long ass video. And yeah, see you all soon.